just exited the lighthouse with 10 spatulas and 6 wheels. As mentioned in the previous installment, 6 wheels is all we need to set up that aforementioned major exploit later in the run. So as such, we are ready to leave this level and start collecting more spatulas in another world. You'll notice at the top of the screen we have 10 spatulas already collected, which means we have just enough to unlock Goo Lagoon. However, we won't visit Goo Lagoon just yet. We're going to save that for later because it's actually faster to do it after the first boss fight. That'll make a lot more sense when you see how we complete that level. But the bottom line is, Goo Lagoon is off the table, and the other 2 worlds accessible in this first area of the hub world have already been completed. So that leaves us with one more option for reaching the required number of 15 spatulas to fight the first boss, and that is sequence breaking the game to access the second and third hub world areas without having to complete the boss fights guarding them. And how might we do this? But of course, our old friend VMS. As a quick recap, vertical momentum storage allows us to transfer momentum created in one level to another by pausing on the exact frame of displacement and then jumping on the first frame you enter the next level. We used this strategy in the previous section of this series to skip a major portion of the downtown rooftops. But now that you're all graduated experts on VMS, I've decided to key you in on 2 extra details that I did not cram into the previous video. The first is that pausing one frame after releasing is actually done by pausing and releasing on the same frame. This sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. When pausing this game, there is 1 frame of delay between the input and the game actually freezing, whereas pressing a button to release the sponge ball happens on the exact frame you do it. So effectively, by pausing and releasing on the same frame, the game freeze is delayed until the next frame, where the displacement that we're trying to store actually occurs. So this allows us to calibrate the delay and pause the game on that frame of displacement for storing it into the next level. The second is that despite the jump out of the load being a frame perfect trick, this type of input is actually not specific to 1/60th of a second unlike the others. This is because the first frame loading into any level always lags longer than the intended duration of a frame. So the A press timing out of a VMS load is actually a lot more lenient than the typical 1 frame trick. However, the trick still requires a lot of skill and consistency, because the player must memorize the exact duration of all the loads leading into a VMS. Thankfully, the loads